ADHD Babes, the podcast. A podcast hosted by the ADHD Babes community for the community. Please note, nothing mentioned during the podcast is meant as a diagnosis. If you believe you have ADHD, please seek professional advice and visit or join ADHDbabes.com for help with diagnosis. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. And now, you're listening to the next episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast.
Welcome back to another episode with us at ADHD Babes, the podcast. Thank you to everyone who's joined us so far. Please don't forget to follow, leave us a rating and review, and share with others. Today's episode is hosted by me, Sabrina, and today we're joined by Zardine Collins, the host of Therapy Diaries podcast, where she will be discussing how therapy has helped her in managing her symptoms, and she discusses her podcast with a variety of guests. Welcome, Zardine.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and when you got formally diagnosed?
Yes, most certainly. And thank you for having me, firstly. So I'm Zardine. I'm a music lawyer by day. And by night, I am everything else that comes with being ADHD. So 10,000 different hobbies and business ideas. I was formally diagnosed about 2 years ago now, and then I started on medication around about a year ago, March of last year. So the journey to getting diagnosed, I was first kind of made aware in 2016 of adult ADHD. I'd seen a post by Penny Bell and thought, that sounds really like myself. And then I was kind of living my life pretty conscious of those symptoms, thinking, have I got ADHD? Do I not? And then what happened was lockdown struck and I just felt basically paralyzed. And now in hindsight, I realized that all of the kind of practices and rituals and routine that was in place to that would often keep my ADHD at bay were just completely stripped away. And I just found it very, very difficult to continue life in the way that I had done before the lockdown. And then, to be honest, I'd say that I'd actually really just struggled to return to what I'd say is like pre-pandemic efficiency. Then what happened was I started going to therapy, so was dealing with a lot of the kind of underlying trauma that can come with being undiagnosed and various other childhood trauma. And then found out about the right to choose, was able to request that I was referred to Psychiatry UK, got on their list, and then it was pretty plain sailing from there. And then the process took about 5 months to get the diagnosis and then a year for medication.
Wow. How did you feel when you had the diagnosis?
Well, I suppose it was a relief, because I think that I don't know what I would have done had I gone through the assessment and he'd have said, you don't have ADHD, because I think I would have just been beside myself, like, what is actually wrong with me then if it's not that? So pretty relieved. But then also I would say that after that point, and maybe not initially, but I think that as I've gotten a bit more comfortable with myself and understood myself better, I developed a better understanding of ADHD and how that's affected me. I think where I've kind of meeting a little bit of, I would say is I found it quite challenging and triggering at times, is actually just trying to live my life now in a way that is actually allows me to thrive, like despite me having ADHD. Whereas I would say up until this point, it's been very much, this is the way of life, you have to conform to that. Whereas now that I found my voice and my confidence and my understanding, I'm a little bit less tolerant of that. And I found it, difficult at times to live my life in a way that accommodates ADHD. It's very new. People aren't so aware of it. The workplace isn't aware of it. It's an education piece, firstly, and then, having resources put behind it that. So yeah, to summarize, I would say initial relief. But since then, it has been pretty challenging because with the more you know, the more like you realize you don't know. And ignorance is bliss sometimes, you know?
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I think sometimes when we've had it for so long and then you find out that you have it, you've mentioned that you feel relieved, but then it's also, yeah, but I've been living this way for so long and I've had to follow like these set of rules for so long. And then you find out that you have a hidden disability and then you're still met with challenges and then there's still a stigma as well. And then it's having to kind of push back and be like, well, no, this is who I am. This is how my brain is wired. And asking the world to give you grace in a type of way, I feel like that can be challenging. Do you find that
Absolutely.
with yourself?
For sure, for sure. And I think that, particularly on the stigma point, and I think it's been quite difficult and can feel like you're justifying yourself sometimes because quite often, and when somebody has ADHD and they tell you they have ADHD, very rarely do you say, no way. You quite often you'll be like, that makes sense. So it's quite, the traits of ADHD run very strong. Yet when you try and explain to kind of people, if you say that you have it, the people can kind of sometimes meet that with, either doesn't everybody or, is it really that bad? So it's like on one side of the coin, it's completely downplayed and almost invalidated. Yet on the other side of the coin, it's so you're made to feel so different to everybody else. So I think it's just been difficult just trying to wrestle with those two I suppose, perceptions that people have.
Yeah, and it is difficult when you're always trying to justify yourself, and then it's difficult when other people are minimizing your symptoms as well. I wanted to speak to you about your day job because you mentioned that you're a music lawyer. So
yes.
How has that been with having ADHD? Because were you a music lawyer before you got diagnosed?
I was a music lawyer before I got diagnosed, yes, but only for a few months. So I would say that the ADHD has been an asset to me training to become a lawyer because it's lots of exams that you have to study for and then you take them. You study for, you take them. So it's very project based. It's very good for the reward system. It's good to see your progress. It's challenging yet purposeful. Where I would say that I've found the difficulty is actually in day-to-day practice. And because there are so many different areas of law, there are so many different styles of working. And within those different kind of areas of working and environments, there are so many different other challenges that are at play. So I would say that, the role I often, because generally the nature of the work is very high pressured, high turnaround, deadline driven, and requires a lot of accountability. It can be very good if you are aware of the ADHD and you can use that to, you find a way to utilize it to help with your efficiency and not work against you. Where I have found it, where I think that it's not a one size fits all, is that the experience of working in law is not the same. Working as a barrister in the courts all day is not the same as working in private practice, which is not the same as working in-house in a company. So I think it presents another set of challenges when you qualify as to, okay, if being a lawyer is intellectually stimulating and satisfying for you, it's then which sort of work environment of those that are available is actually going to be best for you.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. And then you also mentioned the beginning as well, like we have ADHD, we've got 10 million different ideas and hobbies. One of them is your podcast. So how did you start your podcast? Like, what was the idea behind it?
So my podcast firstly, I've always felt like a storyteller inside of myself. It's like, okay, I feel like I have a voice and something to be shared. I didn't want to, however, just put out another podcast for the sake of it, and the idea never felt right. Then I went to therapy, had a really, really great experience with it. And when I was going through this period of therapy, I was spending a lot of time with a friend who had never experienced therapy. And they were just asking quite, what I would describe as quite, to me, because I know them, quite obvious questions, but just very, I don't want to say basic because basic sounds like it's a bad question, but just very foundation level questions, very practical questions. And I found it quite humorous answering them and sharing stories, because it became quite apparent pretty quickly that their perception of therapy was pretty much based upon what they'd seen in television, and not just television, American television. So, the picture of somebody in a nice high-end swanky office with the patient laid out on a chaise lounge and they're walking around you, tapping with a clipboard. Are they a spy in their spare time? Are they telling your secrets? So I just found it quite comical, So it was really just to dispel that. And then from that, they had quite a lot of intrigue about therapy. So I thought, okay, and they were a man. So they are a man. So I just thought, okay, I feel like there is a discussion to be had around this. On top of that, I think that therapy is great, and that where if you can get access to it, everybody should do it. I do obviously appreciate that it is a privilege, so it's not always accessible to everybody, but it was just really as a result of a really good experience, an idea that had naturally occurred, and the timing felt right. So that was kind of how the concept came together. Then I basically did a call out for guests and got quite a bit of interest. And I had a friend that was helping me do the production and getting it filmed and stuff. So again, the timing all just felt right. I felt the resources were there, the content was there. So was able to get that into practice.
That's good.
Thank you. That being, oh, sorry, there you go.
No, sorry, carry on. It's good. You just made me laugh. I was
sorry, I will just talk and talk and talk. I'm glad.
I nearly choked on my tea. Carry on.
So yeah, that being said, I did the podcast and got I got 6 episodes out. But what I was finding was that it just wasn't, it was becoming, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Now, what I liked about the podcast was that I loved the talking. I loved everything. I loved nothing about it other than talking. I hated everything. I didn't want to organize it. I didn't want to be calling out for guests. I don't want to be marketing it. I don't want to be editing content. I don't like any of that. It feels like a slow burn. I'm not getting the dopamine hits. So sat with it for months and months. It was like a cloud over my head. What am I doing with it? It feels like an embarrassment. I've done it. I've failed. It's shit. And then I found a new idea. So I was like, this doesn't feel like it's a failure. It's still going to sit there. And it also kind of can tie into my next project. So I've left it up there to stand because I absolutely love it. And I think the content out there is really good and I'm really, really proud of it. I just didn't have the love or the energy to give it at the moment to take it forward. What I would absolutely love is someone to come along and do everything and I can host. But just for the moment, I just don't have the love or the energy to give it. What I'm now working on as a result of, just again, digging deep, looking at things, just not kind of naturally just finding my voice, is me and my sister are actually launching a brand that is an accessories brand that is for the neurodiverse community. So it's going to be dopamine dressing, lots of bold, colourful ideas, and it's really just going to be stylish and functional accessories for the neurodiverse community, or people that just like things that do not fit the ordinary. So hopefully by the time this gets out, we should have some, our social media up. As I say, the brand is NDAL, which shortens to NDL, Neurodiverse Lifestyle. I'm starting it with my sister, who is called NDAL. And yeah, I'm neurodiverse. She is not. I have the crazy ideas that bounce all over. She reins me in, but she's also a fashion marketing extraordinaire. So she brings all of the flair, all of the fashion, all of the fun too. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. We were going to launch it this year. So it's for us, by us, and yeah, just just really just finding a way now to embrace it, kind of embrace my ADHD, and just hopefully find a way to live a life that I don't have to just feel like have to fit into a box. So where I say that the podcast ties into that is that where we're building a collective, it's not just going to be about the product. We want it to be a collective. We want it to be a space that's not just about, it's not also serious. It's just, a club. We're just, we like the same shit. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And then hopefully from that, we can pick the podcast up again, and I'll have a bit more energy and time to do something that's a little bit more slow burning and doesn't give me so many dopamine hits.
I love that. Your brand sounds really exciting. I can't wait for that to come out. Yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you.
I really liked what you said about the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, because like you said, there's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of everything out there. And people just seem to have Energizer Bunny energy. And I'm like, I don't understand these people like banging out episodes like bam, 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 bam. Mm-hmm. But you're talking about it from the other side, which people don't really say. Like you can host and you can be really passionate about that, but there's the marketing and the editing, and then there's the social media and telling every man and his dog about it. And that's the bit that's exhausting. It's not that like you're passionate about the podcast, but it was the other stuff, the fluff that I call. But yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that, because a lot of people don't really talk about that stuff. And I think that's what leads to burnout as well. Like all this extra stuff that you have to do.
Absolutely. And I think that, it's important. And again, as I say, like, the whole piece of getting to know myself and understand myself, it's a bit like, I've just got uncomfortable with knowing that I have loads of ideas because I have ADHD. One of them could be great, 100 of them might not be, but unless I try them, I'm not going to know. And it's just about keeping it moving. I'm going to try that. If it doesn't work, there's no point in just keep flogging a dead horse. Let's just move it on, try something else. So it's just the only way. And it's just really just it's a numbers game. If you try enough things, eventually, as long as you're kind of like growing from each one, eventually you're going to get there. So it's, again, just not seeing it as a failure, or just, trying a little bit harder. If this doesn't work with the way that your brain engages, then it's going to be a battle. You've just got to pick something that just really plays into the ADHD, allows you to take the downtime when you need it. If it's deadline driven, then fine, you have to run with that. I think that, so it can be so difficult. You think a lot of the time in ADHD, when you have ADHD, even if you are aware, sometimes you just think, right, I'm just going to try so much harder at this. And it's like, no, this is not working, because your brain doesn't function like that.
That's a really good bit of advice. And I think that's going to be relatable to a lot of our listeners as well, because sometimes we keep trying to do things like we need to make it work. But actually you're saying there's no point flogging a dead horse, which is a great expression. And sometimes it's time to just let things go, try something new, learn from that other thing. And it's just God's or the universe way of saying, like, this was the experience, learn from it, and you can take the good from that and bring it to something else. So you've interviewed a range of guests on your podcast, including our very own Vivian, founder of ADHD Babes. What have you learned the most on this podcasting journey?
The thing that I've learned the most on the podcasting journey is understanding myself and how I work. But over and above that, I think there's just been a power in connecting with people. And I think that when you really look at anything that's great, or anything that's considered, iconic or inspirational or big, what really lies at the root of everything is connecting with people. So I just think it's really just over and above really humbling me and being a really big learning experience, it's also just reinforced the power of connection. And I think that's really important, particularly when you do have ADHD, because when you have to spend your time around so many neurotypicals, when you do meet someone that has ADHD, it just feels on fire, because you vibe, the energy is there, and you're like, no, this is my tribe, this is where I belong. I am just trying to navigate in a world full of people that are not like me.
Yeah, and you can tell them your 50 million ideas and it's fine.
And they're like, this is amazing. This is great. Absolutely. I want to work with you. I want to do that if you do this with me too. Absolutely. And that's what you need,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I also wanted to talk to you about the episode that I listened to with you and Viv. You were discussing culturally adapted therapy and how it's important to have meaningful connection, which you've just mentioned now. And you were both discussing that even though, yes, it can be good to have a therapist that's Black and that looks like you, but ultimately it's about connection. So I wanted to ask you, what is the best advice that a therapist has ever given you?
So for me, I would say that I've never really had advice from a therapist in kind of, I would say, the advice in the natural sense of the word, what we think of, you should do this. I think the kind of a really poignant moment that I've had, or that real cementing moment that I've had with a therapist is, which I kind of touch upon, or not kind of, I touch upon on my podcast, is the first time my first time I met my most recent therapist. And that was, I was in Swindon at the time. So, out of London and in the countryside. And I've turned up there and she's opened the door. She's got long grey hair with big crystal rings on and like black smudged eyeliner. And she looks like she is going to tell me my future through a crystal ball. I just thought, no, hon, this is not what I've come here for. We go upstairs, there's more spiritual stuff on the walls, there's crystals. I'm thinking, right, I'm going to see this through. We're getting changed the minute I come out and call him the employee assistance program straight away. Anyway, I got into therapy. As I say, I've done this a few times before. So there's a few things that I have to kind of bring them up to speed. So it's like, you need to know X, Y, and Z. Spoke at her for about 30 minutes, took a breather, and she was like, right, I'm sensing you've got a problem with boundaries. And I just thought, we're in. She knows. And it was just at that point, I just thought, okay, firstly, I've completely judged you. And I've just really just judged you and made an assumption. But I thought, I'm going to go with this anyway, because I'm here for the hour. So why not give it a good old go? And it was worth it. And I've kind of experienced a similar change of perception in this recent period of therapy, because I'm doing it via the telephone, which I've never done before. So again, very, very dubious, not really thinking that it's going to actually be that much that beneficial. Got on the phone today, and within 10 minutes, I was just breaking down crying, which is not bad. I see that as a trauma release, releasing the body. I've been doing a lot of reading about trauma being stored in the body. I just came away feeling so much lighter. And as I say, I just didn't even realize I needed it so much so soon. So I would say that no kind of actual practical advice as such, not that there hasn't been any, but the best kind of piece, the best moment I've had in therapy is just experience that real connection, is somebody being able to listen to you, hear you, and identify something that is very easily changed.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. And when you meet a therapist like that, it kind of feels like a weight off the shoulder, because you've talked at them and then they've been like, aha, and it's that light bulb moment. And they say, you have a problem with boundaries. Like, this person gets me. Yeah, and then you can relax into the relationship, and you feel seen and you feel heard. And that's a good therapist. Like, I feel like that's what therapy is all about.
For sure. Because also I think, really when we get back to it, when you're really looking, when you look inside, so much unhealed inner child trauma really can be solved by just being seen and heard. A lot of things just come down to not being seen or not being heard, or feelings thereof. So I think even just the practice of going to someone and having that in itself, just at a very kind of high level, is beneficial. It's definitely not detrimental, that's for sure.
Yeah. And you've just mentioned as well that you're trying telephone therapy now for the first time. What do you feel like are the differences between telephone therapy and in-person therapy?
So with in-person therapy, I'm going into the therapist's home. The environment feels like, okay, I'm coming to this room to offload. So first thing is the environment. I've now got to create that environment for myself. And it's up to me whether I want to do that in my bedroom, or do I actually want to go out and do that in a place that then feels like a therapy room. And then over and above that, it's just, it'd be like dating a man, chatting to a man on the phone for like 6 weeks and telling them your darkest secrets, hoping, trying to get a connection with them. Obviously, the difference is this person is trained and men can't communicate. I'm joking. I am joking. I never. The difference is obviously they're trained and the people that you're speaking to are often not. So it's difficult to get that connection going. But as I say, it was a real pleasant experience, and I definitely feel that we built rapport.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Do you have a preference over one or the other? Or is it too early to tell?
I've never had a male therapist. I would like one, only just because I've never had a male one. I think that I've always been drawn to a woman because I've been just surrounded by women. I am from, a clan of strong Eastern European women. My heritage is Polish. So I think that I've always naturally been drawn to women. And I think that there are certain issues that will give you comfort coming from a woman over another man. Now, that is just my own kind of interpretation of perception. So that's not to say that's actually true, but that's just kind of what's led me to that. I think that now that I've kind of done a bit more deeper work, I definitely like to go back and have a male therapist, just for having done therapy with a male therapist to explore that. So I can't actually comment in terms of what I think that kind of would feel like. But I think that, any perceptions that you would be attaching to that anyway before going is actually just probably, or not even probably, that's indicative of something to be explored there in itself,
Yeah. Have you ever had a Black therapist? And do you feel like there's any differences between having a Black therapist and a non-Black therapist?
I have never had a Black therapist, no. Do I think there is differences in having a Black therapist? Yes. Now, the reason why I've found it okay with having a white therapist is because I think that growing up outside of London, Black is definitely a minority. And, all of my teachers are white. Most of the people that I are either being kind of directly or indirectly, formally, informally mentored by or look up to or get on well with are all white women. My drama teacher was a white woman, my Italian English teacher, all of these subjects that I enjoyed. So I've never kind of felt difficult with that. It's the women that I've spent time around with, my mum and my nan are both white. My great nan is, white and Polish. So I've never felt a strong connection to needing a Black female therapist. It may be different if I was to have a male therapist because my dad is Black. I think I would respond better to a Black male therapist because it's something that I used to. But again, as I've just said, I think that's actually now more indicative of my own projections that I'm putting onto that. But I do think it matters when it is something that is, if the culture is actually, it matters because if it's going to affect that connection being built, then it matters. So I knew the connection wouldn't be affected with a white woman because I'm used to connecting with them. However, if that were not the case, then I think that would matter because I wouldn't be able to connect with them. So for, I've got lots of friends that are males, some of which are Black. I would always say to them, look, if you're going to try therapy, just go with a Black male because they need to have the best experience of it, in order to get the most out of it. And I think that men find it more difficult to open up just because of, the science that we're made of, and over and above that, the just community, the way that women sit around and talk, that's what we do, men not so much. So I think that there are lots of levels that come to it. So I think that it's probably more significant if you're looking at men versus women, and then additionally more significant if you're looking at the significance that culture has played in your upbringing.
Have you ever, before you have the conversation with your therapist, have you ever had to say to them, this is my upbringing, and do you ever feel like you need to make them aware of cultural differences? Have you ever had to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember at one time I was dating someone who was a different culture to me. And I think that one of the things that my therapist didn't understand is that within Black culture, Caribbean culture and African culture is very different. And then with African culture, there is various different cultures and traditions that are different within those. And my Black side is Caribbean, and this person that I was dating was West African. So I remember going to a therapy session and sharing a lot about that. And I came away feeling like I felt that she was, suggesting that this wasn't an issue. And it was a bit like, I hear you. And, ordinarily these things would be are being created by me. But actually, I think that these are actually real cultural differences and values that do exist. And you can't not address them because they are important. They are there and they are present. So, and, she was responsive to that. And then the next week that I came back, she actually said that she'd reflected upon that and felt that it was an education piece for her. So, it is important to know that these are just human beings with their own life experiences, and they ain't got the answers, Sway, but it's just like they are there just to allow you the opportunity to really assess your own train of thoughts with unbiased. Now, sometimes it's a bit like, look, I get where you're going with the unbiased, but actually let's just call a spade a spade. So I think that providing you've got someone that is, at the end of the day, we're all students, we're all teachers. As long as you've got someone that's of that same mindset, that's happy to be changed and have their opinion kind of changed, or just be offered different approaches, then that's not something that can't be worked through.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think when you have a therapist as well that doesn't understand that's kind of minimizing your experience, that can affect the connection as well. So it's really good that therapist reflected and said, yeah, that's really good that she did that. And then you were able to continue your connection.
Absolutely. I mean, even just things like, there is lots of things that I've touched upon, which are quite shocking, which I'm writing a book, so I'll save it for then. I won't give away all of my secrets. But there are things that, she found quite shocking and I'd felt quite normal. And it's a bit like, again, she reflected upon that and was like, actually, I don't think that was fair for me to bring my opinions of that, because actually I just found it a little bit shocking. That's not to say that it is, that's just my perception of it. So yeah, it's just about having an honest two-way conversation with somebody that's trained in doing this.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I did want to ask you as well, do you have any advice for our listeners, and can you share any tips about how we can take care of our mental health?
Absolutely. So what I would say is, what is that guy? There's like this basic triad of needs or something, right?
Basically, hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I love that triangle.
Right? And what it's just taught me is, and I was introduced this by an old friend, and what it's just taught me is, don't underestimate how those, the food, the water and the exercise has such a big effect, because I've definitely noticed it since starting medication, because, you think starting medication, everything feels okay. And it's one of the things that I've realized is that with the medication, if the three basic needs are not met, sleep, exercise and food and water, same thing, then everything else, nothing else, it's not effective. I may as well not have taken it. So I think, and it's like, when you're thirsty and your life feels like it's falling apart, at no point do you think, hang on a minute, is my life a piece of shit or am I thirsty? Because you could never, ever think that I'm just dehydrated and I need to drink. So I think that the first thing is just when you are just at any point, even just throughout the day, you finish the task, you're starting to dip, can't get started, having problems with activation, are all those basic needs being met? Then I would just say, the second thing is just about getting to know yourself. So self-exploration, either through therapy or journaling. I journal every day. Sometimes I go through periods of really digging deep. Other times I'm just literally writing surface level. I can't really get there. It feels like it's a bit of a blockage, but eventually you get there. But it's all just about just getting to know yourself, getting comfortable. And then the final thing I would say is education. So I think where I've definitely found comfort in just, managing the ADHD is just knowledge. I listen to your podcast. I love the ADHD Women's Wellbeing podcast, which again isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea because it's a white Jewish lady, but she's really great. Her name's Kate Moore Youssef, and she's got so many tips. And also she's an older lady. So again, if you're a bit younger, don't be put off. It's really good chat. And then just books I've read. So there's ADHD 2.0. There's a really great psychiatrist called Ned Hallowell. He's like one of the leaders on ADHD. There's a really good memoir that I've read. It's written by a lady called Roxanne. I'll find it for you. And that was really funny because it's kind of told by the perspective of her and her boyfriend. So it's just been nice just to be immersed in content where you just feel validated, understood, and accepted, basically. So it's just really just about looking after yourself. Just self-love is how I would categorize the approach I'm taking with my mental health. Because, you know, after years of like, if you have a late diagnosis or if you haven't got a diagnosis, and you're still trying to convince people of this, it's just really tough. And then the internal battles that you face, you don't actually realize how much of a constant battle it is. So it's actually just really great to stay alive. I mean, even the statistics for trigger warning, suicide. I think it's something like 2 in 5 people that commit suicide are thought to have ADHD. Like, it's really, really real. It's really, really tough. So yeah, I'm just all about knowing where I stand with myself and life.
Wow, I did not know that at all, that it was 2 in 5. And I think with that topic as well, not a lot of people talk about it. I think that there definitely needs to be more conversation around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. This is my ADHD foaming at mouth. Look at me. It's just, you know, everyone I speak to, it's like, you know, you have the highs, but the first thing I'll say is like, do you get down days? Because it's just a bit like my down days are just, I crash. They're so bad. And it's like, no one would ever realize how like bad it is. And it's just like, some days I just can't be bothered to brush my teeth. I don't want to wash my dishes. Like, I am gross. I'm a gremlin. It's like, no one's ever going to love me. And then other days I'm like, I am fire. My business is going to be £1 million in 1 year. Like, it is. And even that, dealing with that, my little sister has to listen to this. I get up in the morning like, right, Nadal, can I tell you an idea? And she's like, yeah, folding the laundry, still trying to wipe the crust out of her eye. So it's just, you know, it's nice to give the people around you a break. It's nice to share information that you have, knowledge that you have, so that others can better support you and understand what you're going through and how to kind of deal with that. So yeah, take it just very back to the basics, basic essentials, getting to know yourself, and just education. All the other stuff, the lion's mane, all of that, even the medication, yeah, it's nice, but it's just like if you're starting on rocky foundations, then you just can't build anything sturdy, you know?
Yeah. You mentioned down days there as well. Do you have any tips on how to deal with those?
I would say my sister is my savior. So I know that everyone can't have a sister that's a savior. What has benefited me is just having people that know you and know the ADHD. So when you're in those days, they can say, look, this is actually not you, this is the ADHD. A lot of this, you know, a lot of what helps someone with ADHD is validation, reassurance. And it sounds so like no one wants to be like, oh, validate me, reassure me. It feels like you're asking a man to love you, telling a man how to love you. And it's like, it feels really shit. And it's like, no, actually, I just need, when I'm in that zone, I just can't see the wood through the trees. I just need a little torch, you know? So it's just about finding, if you can, or just finding ways to remind yourself of that. So I've started to track my menstruation cycle, because what I'm finding is that there's like 2 weeks of the month, so 50% of the time, where my meds are basically inactive. And it's like the pre-luteal, post-ovulation stages. So it's like I've now got to have a diary, and it's a bit like, okay, have I had food, water, sleep, drink? Right, great, lovely. Done a bit of exercise, great. That's that. Have I therapied? Have I journaled? All of that, great. Okay, where am I in my cycle? Okay, no, this is where it is. So it's just like being able to create these like mental checklists so that when you're in this, it's almost like, like those flow charts. Is this yes? Is this no? Like it would even like just create in one of those, and it's like at the bottom, like this is day 7 of the thingy. Your ovulation, your estrogen is low, therefore you're experiencing more anger. So it's just, it's being able to take yourself on that journey to identify this is the ADHD. This is my life needs improving.
Yeah, you just said something. You said, "Have I therapied?" And I actually wanted to say to you, that is the name of this episode. The episode
I love it.
The episode is called "Is it Therapied or Therapised?"
I love it.
I listened to your episode with Vivian, and then you were both talking, and then you were like, "Is it Therapied or Therapised?"
Yeah.
And then you had to go and ask.
I did.
And I was like, I've got to call the episode that because it's just really fitting.
And I like it because it's peed. It's like, baby, I didn't just pee, I therapied.
Oh my God, this is too funny. Going back to what you said, it's definitely that validation and reassurance. And you've just reminded me as well, because we were talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and one of the needs is love and belonging. So even though we're kind of conditioned now to be like, oh, don't seek external validation, but actually we're human beings, and connection and validation, it's actually a need. And I kind of feel like we need to be a bit careful about this whole don't seek external validation, because we need those people around us to be like, no, like you got this, like you're good, like everything's going to be fine. It's a down day or down days. And yeah, absolutely. You do need those people.
Of course. And the thing is, right, the thing about social media and this digital age that we live in, if you say something confidently enough, everyone's like, oh, it's true, right? Don't seek external validation. Well, I'd like to see the science on that, because it's, external validation could be being rewarded, paid for something that you've done. What, you shouldn't seek that? Absolutely. It literally just means being validated from outside of yourself. Yes, you should also have internal validation, but why would you not have external validation? Even if everything was stripped away from this life and it was just men and women on this earth and we had to create, there's some sort of external validation required in that to even get the tool going. Do you know what I mean? So that, I think, is actually bull crap. Won't swear. But obviously there is good external validation, bad external validation, but it's just a bit like, no, you do need to feel loved. You do need to feel like you belong. You do want to feel connected. It's like, it's hard being crazy. And I don't like that term, but that's how people make you feel. It's all fine and dandy when you're the life of the party, but it's actually hard to feel very different. So, it's not easy being me. Sorry. But yeah, it's hard. It is hard. So, we don't mean seek external validation in, get your bits out on Instagram. It's just more, just getting love from people that love you and that you have around you, and just having good people around you to lift you up, that you also lift up. Because the thing about, having ADHD, like we have got so much energy and we inject that into other people. And, when we're good, like we are the vibes, but when we're bad, like we can just walk in and the whole room knows that we're bad energy. We don't even have to say anything. It's like a black cloud that follows you. So it's just, it's a two-way street. We're all here to help each other. And, not everyone's going to be cut out for it, of course. And that's fine. They're not your people. And I think that, again, it's just, getting confident. I'm going to read a new book called, sorry, that was my ADHD thing. I'm going to read a new book called The Courage to be Disliked. And it's just, just getting comfortable with, like, we're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. That's okay. But we do need to seek connection from those that we are, because, everything... there's like a phrase, like everything is just love. Like when you come back to it, it all comes back to love. Without love, there is nothing. So yeah, we need love. And people that say they don't need it, you shouldn't have it, need it the most.
Yeah. And you're right as well. Like, we give out so much energy, and that can be exhausting as well. Because when you're always giving it, it's like then our cup becomes empty, and it's like, can you fill my cup? Like, I've been giving y'all energy. Like, give me some back. Like, lift me up. And it's just like, I literally, like, in my house, I'm like, am I crazy? Am I a dickhead? Because like, people think I'm a dickhead. I'm not.
Yeah.
Am I crazy? I'm having to ask, am I crazy? Yeah. But like, I don't feel crazy in my head. Like, in my house, like, it's all good. But then I go out there and it's like, Sabrina's crazy. I'm like, it's not me.
It's you. You're all crazy. Sorry you can't see it. And sorry I was truthful and said it. So sue me. Honestly, I think, it's also, I think that and again, where I've got the support from my sister, it's like, you have to be, if you're going to allow me to be the biggest in the room, when I'm down, you've got to allow me to be like the worst. So it's just like, it's two sides of the coin. If you want really stable, composed, fine, then we get stable, composed all the time. But other than that, it's like, I have to be the sickest in the room if I'm ill. But if I'm like, when I'm there, I'm big, because, it's also hard because it creates, when you're that person, you're bringing that energy, you then kind of create this expectation, and then other people have this expectation. So when you're coming to, an environment and you're not bringing that, it's so much, there's layers of guilt to it. It's like, I feel guilty. You've now noticed it, which makes me feel more guilty. Now I feel bad that I've now bring the mood down, which I have bring the mood down, but I didn't mean to bring the mood down. So there's just so much that goes into it. And then you got it all on board. Well, if anything like me, you say something, you're like, you've perfected this, you've written this out, you'll say it, and it's so polite in your head. It is so polite. It's so nice. It's so softly. You say it, and they're looking at you like you have just told them to kill their whole family. And it's like, oh my God, another day of being misunderstood. And it's like, fuck you, you got it wrong, not me. So it's just a constant battle. And I'm sorry you can't get my tone. Do you know what? Man up. No, I can't say man up. Stop being a snowflake. We don't say man up anymore. So yeah, it's just really, really hard. And I think that, it's just about finding the balance, but also just limiting your time of being around. Sorry, I don't know why I've just turned this into another advice piece. I don't know how we got here, but just like limiting your time around people that just don't get it.
Yeah, it's massively frustrating as well, especially if you're one of those people where people are like, oh, so-and-so lights the room. And it's like, yeah, but like with a light bulb, if you leave the light bulb on all the time, the light bulb will go out eventually. The light bulb needs to be, the switch needs to come off every once in a while, because going back to what you were talking about earlier, look what happened to Twitch. Like, everybody was like, oh, he lit the room. Yeah, but did you allow him any downtime? Like, I bet he walked in every room. People are like, oh, can you dance for us? Maybe he didn't want to dance all day. Maybe he got tired.
And it's like, sorry, no, you go.
Oh no, it's all right. Go on.
It's the thing is, I always say to my sister when I get in those moments, it's like, listen, everyone's gonna have to give me their space, because otherwise I'm gonna ruin the party and then we're all gonna be crying. So it's a bit like, if you don't let me do this, the whole thing's getting pulled down. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to ruin it for everyone. So, and it's like, unfortunately, in his situation, I don't mean it for everyone. That was very, very tragic, and that's a completely different. But, it's the point is, it's a tragic. It's like, and then also we've then got to deal with all of that guilt. So it's not even like I'm going to ruin the whole party for everyone and I just live with that. I'm then crying, begging everyone to forgive me 30 seconds later, but no one can forgive me because I've just said the worst things possible. So it is just not good for anyone if you poke the bear, I suppose. Well, that's how it feels. It feels like poking the bear, I suppose. To other people, it's not that, but it is. It's so much expectation. It's a lot being this great,
Oh my gosh, this episode has been really, really funny. And I think one of my takeaways from this is the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. And
absolutely.
I've written that down. I feel like I need to put it on the wall or something.
Honestly, it's just so perfect because it's not like, sorry, just the final thought. It's not like you aren't getting anything out of it. You are getting something. There is a bit of juice. It's just not worth it's not worth the energy that you're putting in. And that is what I just think that this whole ADHD thing is about. It's like, is the juice worth the squeeze? You know, you started this hobby. Yeah, you're going to feel a bit embarrassed if you quit it, but is the juice worth the squeeze? Mm-hmm. Or you're really good at this thing. You've just got to get through this one menial task. Once you've done that, you're flying, you're going to hyper focus, you're going to smash it. The juice is worth the squeeze. So yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm going to do a range of my products called Juice. The juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Yes.
Dedicate it to you.
Yes. Oh, we need badges. We need stickers. We need mugs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's
you
get the merch
first
going.
in line. Listen, you guys are first in line. I cannot wait. You even get a sneaky preview. Actually, I'll show you one of the bags. So they are handmade in London. They are bespoke. And they are incredible. So this is our kind of, these are just prototypes. This is our signature piece, right? Oh. We're still working on it. It's very, very firm. It looks flimsy, but it's very firm. So we're still working on it. We're going to switch up the handle. And the kind of concept is that to go along with this, we've got an accessory, a key ring, which is a fidget key ring. So provides, fidget activity, and you can then clip this onto the bag. So you can either, if you can't afford this price point, you can just have the accessory. You can then, obviously, because we don't like change, but we do like change, you can keep the bag, but then you can switch up the bag with the accessories and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's just really great. It feels gorgeous. It's made with so much love. We've got so many other ideas for the brand. And yeah, it's just really just going to speak to our community, I hope. And just, we get to embrace our quirks, still be stylish with it. Even just, things, just getting comfortable with ourselves and owning it.
I love it. Can you tell me what has been your biggest takeaway from today's conversation?
My biggest takeaway from today's conversation is that if you can channel it, having ADHD is actually really great. Because I feel like we've had vibes, we've had jokes, and we've really understood each other. We couldn't have had that without so seamlessly about a topic that off the cusp that we just talked about. We'd have to really hone that, even if it's music. Let's say say really got into the Grammys. We couldn't have that vibes. And also, this is coming from a place of this is sold to us as a disadvantage, as a detriment. So I think that, the biggest takeaway is just that, it's if you can really channel it, it's great. And reinforce that just power of community, connecting and just finding your tribe, really.
Thank you. And you mentioned as well that you have your accessory brand coming out. Have we got any dates? Do you know when it's launching?
So I don't have a specific date, but we are launching in the next couple of months. Therapy Diaries podcast is still up on all of the digital service providers, all of wherever you get your podcasts. So you can still listen to that. But yes, the brand will be launched in the next couple of months. So look out for it. It's called Nadel Neurodiverse Lifestyle. And we will be everywhere. And you will find us. And I will send you some samples and you are going to love them. I'm going to make them for you.
Exciting. Thank you so much. So I want
you
to
are
thank
so welcome.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Where can our listeners connect with you? What are your handles? Have you got any websites or anything?
Absolutely. So for the moment, if you just follow me on Instagram, it's my first name .surname. So Zardine.Collins on Instagram. And if you haven't listened to the podcast, we've got no socials on that because everything's just in its downtime. Again, it's important to do that. I was even just going through a period of rushing to get everything done, need to get the social media so I can plug it on the podcast. And it's like, no, it's not done yet. So it will be there. It'll be visible. So if you just follow me for the moment and then watch this space.
Thank you so much. That's everything for today. So to support our podcast, please spread the love and share with other ADHDers. If you'd like to join ADHD Babes or learn more, you'll find the links to our website and social pages in the show notes, as well as visiting ADHDbabes.com. Thank you for listening. If you liked today's episode, please feel free to follow us so you don't miss out on future episodes. Also, review our show to help us grow and let everyone know your thoughts. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. If you're a Black woman or non-binary person and need help and support in managing your ADHD or advice on diagnosis, please visit ADHDbabes.com. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. Join us in 2 weeks for a new episode. Until then, all the love from the ADHD Babes team.
Just as I am, can you take me just as I am?